Hello everyone and welcome to another ISTE Games and Sim Network Hangout. It is Monday, October 5th, and this is part of Connected Educators Month. In fact, it's our first event for the month. And today we have a very special guest. We have Tom Vander Ark, and he is going to be with us, and he's right down there below. And he is from Smart Learning, and he is the co-author of a new book. And this new book is Smart Parents, and it's Parents for Powerful Learning. And I'll show you real quick. There it is on my iPad. And it is an absolutely great read. And will be your host, sort of, because everybody else is going to do much more talking than I am. And I'm Kay Novak. I'm the chair of the ISTE Games and Sim Network, and I'm really excited on having this discussion on parents, powerful learning, and learning that happens outside of the school. And the reason why that is really relevant to us in the Games and Sims Network is because we happen to have a club. We happen to have a bunch of people who play games, things that are normally done outside the school, and we also have a book club, and that book club is called the Metagame Book Club. And for anyone not familiar with the term metagame means all the learning that happens outside the game. So it's all the videos that the kids are making about how to go through the game, all the beautiful things they're doing there, all the discussion forums where they're doing things like, even like theory craft, which is basically calculus to figure out how to do the game, all the modding and coding that happens outside of the game. So we're very interested because while we talk about learning outside of games, and we're all educators, what they'll be talking about today is learning that happens outside of school and learning that should be happening in school and what students should know. So we're going to have people introduce themselves, and we are going to go from, and it's my left, so we'll start with Marie, and we'll ask everybody to come on the mic and introduce themselves.
Hello, my name is Marie Vianide. I am an EdTech consultant, and I will confess I am a recovering telecom executive. I am also a maker mom, a math mom, and a gamer mom.
Okay, Tanya, I believe you are up.
Hi, Tanya Martin, and I am an educator and a mom of two amazing children who learned a lot of things out of school, as well as in school. And I am a former professional developer for a very large urban district.
And next we have Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Vander Ark from Getting Smart, and I'm the father of two young ladies, and my wife and daughters and I all work together at gettingsmart.com.
Hi, I'm Trish. I'm from Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools in North Carolina, and I am an educator. I'm also the mom of a 16-year-old and 13-year-old who do a lot of gaming, and I'm a gamer too, so I guess I fall in the category of gamer mom. And I do a lot of getting kids interested in gaming and coding and stuff in school.
Very cool. And if we're lucky, we're going to have one more participant jumping in just a little bit later. But let's get started with Tom. So Tom, we have a question for you. And our question for you is, what was the inspiration for this book? And tell us about your book, please.
Well, every year at Getting Smart, we try to name and frame a big important topic in learning, and then we invite experts, most of them in the U.S., to write about it, and then we turn that into, we call it a thought leadership campaign, and we publish blogs on Getting Smart and Huffington Post and Medium and LinkedIn and EdWeek, and then we try to culminate that with a book, often a few podcasts, and we do that to try to advance the field, help people think about the path forward. So our last book looked at cities and innovation ecosystems, but because I work with my daughters and I was When my daughter was expecting with her first, we started talking about raising kids these days, and we have the good fortune to work with a dozen mothers, and they range from mothers of toddlers all the way up to mothers of high school students. So this topic of parenting was super important to our team as well. And I guess the driving conclusion was that we're all very excited about all the new learning opportunities that exist for students, but we recognize that they come with a new set of challenges for parents. When my kids were growing up 30 years ago, you would pick a school and they would go on the escalator to the American dream. And today it just seems like we're making decisions every day about screen time and apps and the choice of an online course or a course at school, and then it comes time for homework and should we go on Khan Academy or play Dreambox, and it seems like there's one or two orders of magnitude more decisions that we need to make, and as a group of parents we just didn't see any kind of a framework for how to deal with this wonderful dilemma of the riches of learning opportunities.
And Marie, you happen to be, I saw your name in this book here. Can you tell us about your participation in this book? And Tom, thank you so much for telling us about how you actually how you kind of do this like think tank, which I think is wonderful.
Well, I had the honor to participate in one of the blog series that Getting Smart had, which was the Smart Parents blog series. And as I contributed to that series, they asked me if we might take part of that contribution and include it in the book, which was fabulous. And I've read the whole book, and I think that there were awful lot of very smart parents who had some pretty important things to say.
And I think Tanya just brought up one of your recent blogs with Getting Smart, right? what it's like to be a maker mom, which is something that we definitely want to get to, talking about how the maker movement, games, game design, and coding is all taking things to a different place than what we're seeing in schools. So let's start with our first question. And our first question, and we'll start with Tom, but just go to anybody who has an opinion, and I have an opinion myself too. Okay, so what should students know or be able to do when they graduate high school?
I think over the last 10 years, one of the most important developments has been this idea of grit and mindset. The two things, that effort matters. Intelligence isn't fixed. It's something that we develop every single day, and that this idea of a growth mindset, that effort helps us become who we are. And so the combination of persistence and working hard is really important. To that, I guess I have learned over the last 30 years that there's two things we don't teach in school that are really important, and that's selling and delivering. And so sort of the basics of being able to make a persuasive argument to an audience, and then project management, the ability to deliver either by yourself or as part of a team. I think those two things are really important.
And for our other panelists, anybody else want to discuss or answer the question, what should students be learning by the time they graduate, and what aren't they learning?
I think that Students, of course, need to learn to think and figure things out for themselves, and not just, I think that a traditional education in days past has been memorization of a lot of content. And of course, what's so very different today, not that children shouldn't know lots of things, but they need to know them in context. And I think simply taking, a direction that a lot of our education organizations are going is, or have for the past few years, is test taking. And do they know stuff? And it's great to know stuff, but of course you can quickly look it up. And in modern times today, everybody's got a computer in their pocket. But what are they going to do with that stuff? And can they figure it out? And does it matter? And that's just kind of a little hard to nail in and to test and to assess.
I have to say, listening to him talking about selling and the persuasive argument, my daughter, one of the greatest things I've seen happen with my 16-year-old daughter is her being involved with the debate team. And I've watched these kids develop, they have to develop the ability to communicate effectively and to be able to bring home the argument, to win the debate. And I would like to see that taught more, because I see people lacking the communication skills, lacking being able to effectively put forth an argument or persuade. And that's one, I agree with you on that. That's one of the things right there. Another thing that I would like to see is the fear of failure being removed, because I see in my everyday, kids are afraid to do anything because they say, is this how I do it? Is this how I do it? Is this how I do it? And I just say, look, be brave. Just do it. You can't break it. I can fix it. Just do it. Don't ask me. Just do it. And it's still, there's this fear of not doing something right. And I would really like to see children just develop bravery a little bit more.
Those are great points, Trish. That's why I'm such a big advocate of blogging, getting kids to blog, and moving away from turning it in, just to satisfy a teacher, and thinking more about publishing for a big audience. I love the idea of debate. I also think every student should have a great publication experience in high school. I'm a big fan of the Palo Alto journalism program, where the students produce world-class product every single day, every single week, and the ability to, the chance to work on a team and to contribute your own writing in an accurate and persuasive way that ends up being a tangible product that you can put in a portfolio. I think those are really wonderful experiences.
And we're getting some comments, like we have a Padlet with a back channel running, and right now from Rochelle's comment was, students need to be able to understand how to find information, determine what it is, whether or not it's a reliable source, learn skills for communicating, share ideas, be open to other ideas, and diverse thinking. Some students want easy because fear of failure. They need to learn how to deal, reflect, and grow for future success. And so thank you for that comment, Rochelle.
That's a great summary, by the way.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, that's the definition of information literacy. Great. And the other thing I was going to say really quickly is because of what Trish Cloud was mentioning, when it comes to her students, I know we're seeing also a lot in the classrooms. We're seeing a lot of after-school clubs that do coding, and a lot of kids being involved in the maker movement and maker fairs, where it is constantly about iteration. I even know with myself, doing some coding. I had some code that didn't work last night. Guess what I had to do with it over and over and over again. And I think things like, even playing in Minecraft gives an opportunity to experiment, to fail, to have that build not work out and to have to do it again. And I was wondering if anybody else had other comments, because I'd love to have some more discussion about what's going on with coding and the maker movement and what people are seeing with that?
So I've spent a couple of decades hiring people into engineering positions and needing to do coding, and I have to say that having those professional skills, being able to do good coding, architecture, and in fact, higher level skills in coding is nothing more than table stakes. You have to have that to get a job. I think to a certain degree we need to have that to understand how our world works anymore. But in order to really be the ones who succeed in the way the workplaces are starting to work, it takes so much more than just those already difficult, right, already high bar professional skills. You also need the ability, as we talk about, to be able to deal with failure, to be able to iterate onto success, to have this mindset that you're creating something beautiful, and yet to have the judgment to know when is it good enough, right? When do you stop? And also to stop looking at collaboration as cheating, because the things that we do in software these days are far too big for any individual to do it. And when you get folks out of college, they have just this tendency to think about, I was given this assignment. If I don't do it myself and do it perfectly and get it right, then I'm going to get fired. Whereas the manager's thinking, if you waste any time on trying to solve a problem that the person in the office next door can tell you in 10 minutes, you're not really giving us the bang for the buck that we're looking for. And so good judgment, collaboration, being able to be a leader and an independent thinker, being fluid, navigating a participative world, being able to think and to synthesize and to write and to communicate, and most importantly, how to continue learning over and over and over and over, because the things that are differentiating today, the things that are like beyond the stuff that's hard, they're going to be table stakes tomorrow.
And can you just tell us what you mean by table stakes really quickly?
Sure, but table stakes are just mean that's the minimum bar. If you
okay.
That, you're not even in the competition, right? You can't. But once you've got a big pool of applicants, who are you going to hire when everybody's got those table stakes?
And the next question I wanted to pose out to everybody, and anybody can take this, but basically for everybody, what do you consider personalized learning, and why should personalized learning be important to parents? Anybody want to take that one?
Okay. Well, I'm part of a personalized learning pilot. My school district is doing personalized learning right now, and our school is in its second year of personalized learning. And there are certain personalized learning attributes that the students attain to, which if you read the IB Learner's Profile, it's pretty close to that. It's where the student feels they have a choice. The student has pathways, they have learning modules, they have a voice in what they're learning, and they do a lot of it is project-based learning. A lot of it is working at their own pace. It's the teacher is involved, the teacher sets the stage, she gives them the menus, and having seen my daughter, who is now a junior in the IB program, sort of go through this when it's not actually called personalized learning, but it's the same thing, I like what it does because it does teach them to think, because they do have to make their choices. They have to validate their choices to their teachers, so they have to be able to communicate why I don't need to work on this right here because I know this. Instead, I need to work on this because I'm having difficulties in this area. Our teachers were a little daunted last year, but they have embraced it this year, and they are really turning it up to where they are producing some outstanding pathways and menus for the students for them to do, and it's so cool. You see the kids walking around. You'll see a little pod out in the hallway. They're all on their Chromebooks. You'll see another pod down the hallway working on iPads. You see some just working with pencil and paper. It's so diverse, and it's noisy, and it's messy, but it's learning. And you know, and the teachers, because this field has opened up, have started embracing things that normally they wouldn't. It's like I found out last year that I had several teachers who had just sort of thrown options out there for kids to do projects in Minecraft, which I loved because I've been pushing Minecraft for years, and they're so comfortable with it now. They let the kids go ahead and do those projects in Minecraft, or they let them try to build a website, or do this or do that. You know, the bar for taking a chance is just there. They can just shoot for the moon, and as long as they can validate and explain to the instructor, why are you doing this? Give me reasons why you think this is going to be the best way for you to present your topic. They can generally run with it, and we give them the option to run with it, and it's having some really cool results.
And Trish, it sounds like you absolutely were talking about the selling and the delivering that Tom had mentioned was necessary. That the students have to make their case.
Right, they do.
and then they have to deliver.
Exactly, they do have to deliver.
Then it's not necessarily a teacher going through a checklist. Okay, has this student done this? Great. Has the next student done that? The students are given really good guidelines on what they have to do. The teacher gives them a rubric, and how high that they set the bar for themselves, it's right there in front of them. They've got the ability. It's right there in front of them. They know what they can do to just blow it out of the ballpark, and that choice is there. So that's one of the things I really like, is that it's not nebulous. The A is not this. It's not the students are free range, you know.
Right. It's there, and it's aligned to the standards, and it's all the educational stuff that it has to be. But at the same time, it's giving the kids some room to breathe.
And we have a question. And this is from Hannah. And Hannah asks, have you found that students stay on task better with their own learning paths? And because on-task behavior is an issue in our school.
I only see them in the class that I teach, which is technology, and I have not heard of things like that. However, I'm not in direct instruction classrooms, but then again, I'm in a school that behavior issues is not an issue really at all. So we tend to have, as my principal puts it, a compliant population, which I'm not going to argue with. But even the ones who like to push the boundaries, I don't think they push them that far. And they do stay on task because we're testing where we're supposed to be, so there is learning going on, and I can see that when I see the kids come in and they're working on the projects and they're bringing it into technology and they're working on whatever project that they're working on for their teacher. I hope that answered that.
Oh, I think it did. And Marie, in fact, I think that the part of the book that you wrote might even be on personalized learning, isn't it?
It is to a certain extent, although I have a hard time separating out personalization and student-centered learning, because to me the environment I want for my kids includes both. So for me, personalization is having a curriculum that is interest-based, a curriculum where students have, as you said, voice and choice, and a curriculum which is mastery-based, which means that when they know something, they're allowed to move on. They don't have to move in lockstep. And then the student-centered part, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Well, we use that student-centered framework from the Nellie Mae Education Foundation to outline smart parents. So I would agree that student-centered learning really goes a step further than personalized learning, and as Trish said, it puts students in the driver's seat. And we think the key thing for parents is to really understand their child as a learner, and to gain an appreciation for why, when, and how they learn best, and then to help their son or daughter come to understand that so that they can take more ownership of their own learning.
And if I could just add, I think everything that has been said is accurate, but part of personalized learning is finding that spark in that child. And every child has a spark that's different, something that they have a passion for. I used to teach middle school, and I used to tell my friends, my parents, family members who had children, you know, what do you do when they get to middle school? Because so often when they get to middle school is when things go awry. And I used to always say, just help them find their passion, whatever it is. It could be music, could be art, could be sports, could be reading, writing. It doesn't matter. If they find their passion, everything will work out. If they don't find it, and a parent doesn't help them to find it, lots of stuff can happen in middle school. And that was just, you know, I saw it happening in middle school. Just the spark is important.
Okay, so let's go on to the next topic, and here's one that I think we could spend the rest of the time talking about, but we won't because we want to get to some others too. What are some of the educational opportunities available now that weren't available when you were going to school? Anybody want to take that one?
We've talked about a lot of them already. The maker movement has really exploded in the last 5 years. Robotics in the last 10 years. Coding, I would say, in the last 4 or 5 years. Students blogging has really taken off also in the last 5 years. Over the last 20 years, there's been a gradual increase in the number of online learning opportunities, and similarly informal learning options. So it's really changed exponentially just in the last 20 years.
And I would jump on the online learning and the internet. Could you imagine what it would have been like, your school, if you had taken it and you had the internet? Now, Trish talked about her daughter's doing debate. Her daughter's able to Google things and have access to electronic academic, databases to look at things. When I was doing it, I had index cards, and
Right.
I went through the newspaper, and I clipped out the articles, and I glued them on index cards, and I had this big file that I took to the things, and I tried to memorize everything I could, and I walked around with a periodical guide to literature. That was like, I mean, librarians had to take it away from me because I was always trying to look up things to find it. I would have to see what debates look like now. Now that you have so much great access, and for us, it was finding that stuff. Now it would be filtering that stuff out. So does anybody else have an example of an activity they might have done when they were in school that is totally different now?
Well, I can talk about YouTube. I was a little bit of a crafty kind of person, and I liked painting, drawing, those kinds of things. And I go to my mom, or I go to somebody, or a book, like you say, a book, to find out how to do it. And I have a little niece who is just incredibly talented. Neither my brother nor her mother have that kind of talent. And I asked her, where did you learn to do that? And this little kid of 7 years old says, YouTube, because you can pretty much anything you want to learn how to do, fix, make, you'll find somebody or somebody's multiple have put up things to show you how to do it on YouTube. So YouTube is really a great resource.
Anybody else want to give their example of the difference between when you went to school and educational opportunities you see now?
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about game-based learning at this point.
Considering the Games and Simulation Network, yes, why yes. We've been good so far.
So the opportunity to learn through simulations, to learn through augmented or alternate reality games, to be able to learn in ways that feel real is not something that happened when I was in school. Everything was about, sit and take in content and then repeat the content to show some level of understanding. But there was no depth to it. You don't understand history by memorizing dates. You understand history by experiencing a history game, because then there's these high stakes and there's this interest that gets generated. And perhaps you want to expand on that a little bit.
and I will just because one of our participants who has not been able to get in, Farah Banani, is someone that I worked on a project with. She is the online chair for Math, Science, Allied Health at a community college, and we developed a game called Project Outbreak. And what Project Outbreak did was bring in people who, one of them was a science chair, brought in people who basically sent our students on an augmented reality game that went throughout our campus, where they had to solve problems that were globally based. And with that project, our students put out their mobile phones. We had them walk around. We had them go to where patient zero patient zero collapsed. Had them researching things, but actually going out in the field and seeing what it would be like if this person had actually collapsed there, and what kind of follow-up would have to happen. Basically, we found out that the CDC does have epidemiology interns, so we based it all on, on what the CDC does, and we had our students do it. And it was basically a 6-week project where they were constantly, it sounded like what Trish was talking about. Our students all gathered together trying to figure out, okay, so the person collapsed here. What information do we have? Where can we get more information? What kind of tests need to be run? What additional things do we need to find out? And we really did it in a way where they questioned what was going on, and we really had them thinking about things such as Tanya was saying about critical thinking. When we got lab reports back, we said, do our lab reports ever wrong? Do doctors ever get the diagnosis wrong? And we had them really dive deep into this, and this would not have been as possible. I've taught with case studies. I've taught with Harvard business case studies. They're good, but it's not the same as using a simulation or a game. The epistemic frame doesn't show up there. It's a discussion that you receive, rather than something that you are authentically going through. And that's where I think games and simulation can come in. So that was my part about games. Does anybody else have an example of something? Yep. Maybe you, Trish, or Tom?
Well, I would add a plug for games that require hypothesis development. So in elementary school, there's programs like ISTE Math that are math puzzles, but they really do require students to develop and then test a hypothesis, and then they get instructional feedback. And those are, I think, so much more worthwhile than the sort of drill and kill software that is pretty common. And then I'm really happy that 3 of you have talked about simulations, because I just don't think there's a better way to introduce multivariable problem solving and systems thinking than to be immersed in a complex system.
So Trish, do you have an example for us of something when you were at school that has changed for your daughters?
Everything. It's all different. I mean, I did the whole kill and drill. In fact, I was trying to teach kids keyboarding, and it's not so much that I want them to turn into fast typers. I want them to know where the letters are on the keyboard so that they become more fluid, whether they're typing on a keyboard or whether they're typing on an iPad, whether they're typing on whatever, because that QWERTY keyboard is not going away. And so I was telling the students about, and I was demonstrating to them how I had to roll the paper into the typewriter. And they were like, you put paper, and they were looking at their computer monitors, and they're going, where did you stick it? And I'm going, no, 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 no. This was before that. And I was trying to explain to them what a typewriter was. And there's just so much. And you were talking about the debate kids. It's like they have their computers, but they have to be told that their computers cannot be connected to the internet while they are debating, so they are not able to have an unfair advantage. There's so much, and they think so differently than we do, and it's amazing to watch the kids today. They process information at a rate from multiple sources all at once, synthesize it, and do stuff with it, while adults stand there and go, huh? And I think that's one of the biggest things we have to get a grip on as educators, is these kids don't think like we do. They were born into the age of the smartphone, the iPad, the computer, Wi-Fi everywhere, the world at your fingertips, YouTube, and just constant streams of information coming at them. And when I was growing up, it was pretty much educationally, it was me and the teacher. There wasn't even really educational TV. So somewhere in there, we've got to get a handle on the way they learn and embrace that and give them the freedom to take all that and become geniuses with it.
And I was going to say, Trish, I guess you're going to have to go to YouTube and find a video of what a typewriter is and show how it is.
Yeah.
And show one so that your students can get some context.
I guess so.
So our next question is, what have you learned from parents, and this is for everybody, but especially Tom, what have you learned from parents about how to make educational decisions in today's ambiguous environment? How do parents make decisions, Tom?
Yeah. So after 100 blogs, we sat back and tried to answer this question. We came up with 4 answers. So that the baseline that everybody wrote about is being involved. So getting to know your child as a learner. And second is be informed, to be informed about their progress, about what's working, what's not working. The third one is to be intentional about the time that you have together with your child, about asking good questions, and then about creating powerful learning experiences for them. So that starts at the dinner table every night, but then thinking about interesting things that you could do on your weekends. Our director of publication calls these the intentional weekends. And then the last one is to be inspirational, and that seems like a high bar, but I really think that means to let your kids see you being a learner. Let your kids see you trying something new, and sometimes succeeding and sometimes failing, and we think that's really important. So involved, informed, intentional, and inspirational.
And anyone else have some ideas about that? Just because I want to say I know that I have, whether doing presentations or things, we often have parents come up and ask us about game-based learning, and talk and talk about just games in general and why they can't get their sons or daughters away from the game, and why the game seems to be so addictive. But I think, Tom, what you said is about really being an involved parent. And when it comes to games, yes, your kid likes games, but at the same time, if you're doing, those weekend inspirations or those weekend involvement things, those are things that your child is likely to find as engaging as that video game.
So what you're saying, Kay, is we should play games with our children.
I fully support playing games with kids, but not just video games, okay?
Right.
You should, but I think it also suggests that there are times when you put the computers and the phones away and you go for a hike or you go for a road trip, right? So it's both and, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's find that engaging thing that you can have that really great talk with your child. I mean, I think that's what it's about. And of course, us being games and simulations networks, of course, play the games with your kids and know what games your kids are playing. Trust me, your kids are coming up to me at school and talking to me about what games they're playing, and they want to talk more to me about it because somehow they identify me as the person at the school who's the gamer. So I guess Tanya, we should ask some other people. What do you think about playing with your kids?
Well, one of the things I think that we kind of miss sometimes is that learning is fun. School may not always be fun, right? The whole process of sitting and being talked at may not be fun, and especially being talked at slowly is very hard to kind of keep your attention when you're used to synthesizing multiple streams of information at once. And now my kids are a little odd, but my son, from the time he was a baby, we would play math together. And and that's something that intrigued him, and it never became boring or not fun until he was in school. And my daughter does not, right? Math is not her thing. She has other things she's interested in, but the whole idea that learning is a lot more fun than schooling, I think is a key thing to keep track of, and that learning is, it is kind of a game. You get those amazing moments of, oh my God, I didn't know I could understand that. I didn't know I could do that, right?
and I think what you'll find with gamers like assessment. Gamers like the feedback. Your kids are playing games, they like the feedback. They like knowing how well they're doing, and they like figuring out how to do better. And that's the fun for it. There's a term in games called fiero, which means, basically the accomplishment, that throwing your hands and going, yeah, I got that. The best times in the classroom were when I saw my students doing something like that. When they got it, and when they got it. And I would have to go back to Trish, that the messy, noisy classrooms are absolutely the best.
Well, this past Friday, I've got a whole new slew of kids in the coding club, and one boy, his story, I'll post the video later. He had never done any of it before, and I've got some kids in the coding club that have been in there. This is their 3rd year, and then I've got some kids who have just come in, and he is so excited. And so this Friday we were just tooling around in code.org and doing the exercises there, just getting a feel for moving the blocks and figuring out how things work. And in the club, I pretty much let the kids work at their own pace, and I'm there to troubleshoot and just guide gently, because I want them to do the learning. I don't want to tell them how to do things. And he got to a thing, and he was standing over there waving his arms up in the air, and he said, Miss Cloud, come here, you got to see this. And it was a drawing program where he had to program the blocks, and he made the blocks write his name. And he was so excited. He said, "This is the greatest thing ever. Look, it's writing my name." And I said, "I know, that's wonderful." And 11:30 Friday night, I get an email from his mom, and his mom is like, "Could you please send me that video that you took of his name being written?" Because he has not stopped talking about that. And today he came up to me. He said, "I'm in the Minecraft club. I'm in the coding club. I do this, 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 and I play sports." But he said, "Nothing compares with coding. It is the greatest thing ever."
I think I know that exercise in the Scratch. I think I know exactly what exercise that
and
is
I was like,
in Scratch.
and I was like, "That is so good." And I said, "We're going to learn even more cool stuff." And he goes, "It's just the best." And I was like, "This is what I want to hear."
Okay. So I think we're conveying why we love games. We love coding. We love the maker movement. We love drama. We love humanities, music, everything like that. And that's what to get. That's Tanya. I think you hit it. I think it was find your son or daughter's passion and go with it. And I have to ask this, and whether they're in the book or not, we've been asked a question about the book. Are there specific examples of parent activities in the book? And if not, I think we might be able to brainstorm some.
The whole the last third of the book is a toolkit, and it's age specific, so for parents of toddlers and middle kids and high school kids. So there's hundreds of great examples in the book.
Wonderful. And I mean, there's lots of other examples out there at maker fairs, at DIY.org. There's wonderful things where you can find these activities. And now we'll be wrapping up really soon. So the last thing, Instructables, Trish just wrote in Instructables.com. So the last thing what are some of the challenges we face before all students have access to personalized learning, and how can they be addressed? So, Tom, if you'd like to start us out with that, that would be great.
Yeah. So there's we think states play an important role in making sure that there's equitable access to devices and broadband.
Okay.
Another state policy issue is just making more options available and making funding portable so that it can follow kids to new options. The third one is embracing broader aims. We think it's important for school districts and states to move fast reading, writing, and math. Those things are very important, but so is creativity, persistence, collaboration, critical thinking. We need to name these as important goals and value activities that where students can develop these. So those are the first three things that I'd mention that communities and state policy can do a better job of making available.
And Cloud, your school decided to go to personalized learning. What happened there that made that happen?
Our district decided to embrace personalized learning, and last year there were X number of pilot schools selected from our district, and there were a lot of elementary schools, some middle schools, and one or two high schools. And that number has doubled this year because it showed good success last year. So now they're branching out even more, and the new schools are coming to the schools who did the program last year. They're coming to that school to see how they do it and see what good practice is in place.
So, Cloud, can you tell us your school and school district real quick? Again? I don't want to Google it now.
Okay, I'm at Grand Oak Elementary in Huntersville, North Carolina. I'm part of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school systems in North Carolina.
And I think if we went to Google your kid's blog, it would be like the Techie Owls is your tech club, right?
Yes, my website, which is still under construction because I've been kind of treading water this year, it's called techieowls.com.
And Marie and Tanya, do you have any ideas about how we get more access to personalized learning for our students?
I just want to address the idea that, because we're talking to parents and about parents, what parents can do, and basically school's not enough. They're trying. Every school is trying to do the best that they could do, and some are doing it better than others. But the parent is the first teacher of that child, and the parent knows and cares more about that child than anybody else. And I think the parent needs to understand that they have to give as many opportunities, and there are inexpensive ways of doing this. You know, there's girls and boys clubs, there's libraries. So if you can't afford to have these things for your child, you can go to a place where they can participate in these kinds of things, and it may not be, you know, cost prohibitive. And certainly, just as Tom said, you know, walking outside and picking up the rocks and seeing what's under there, you know. I mean, that was a game I played with my kids. Let's see who can find the most worms. And, you know, yeah, worms are under rocks. We use them for fishing. There's just, you can make up a game about anything. And parents trust us, the educational system, to do everything that's right, and despite the fact that we're trying very hard, we cannot do it alone. So parents have to actively participate in their child's education.
Marie, do you have anything as we're wrapping up?
I would just say that, you know, this is an amazing time where we have the confluence of knowing a lot about how people learn and the technology to do amazing new things at scale, and an ecosystem that is eager to innovate and to try new things. And there are a lot of barriers, and I think not least among them is that most of us still tend to think about school as, when it's done right, being the way we did it when we were kids. And so with all of this opportunity available, I think that may be one of the biggest hurdles we need to overcome.
And Marie, we all enjoy watching you be a parent from a distance. I think you exemplify smart parents today. You're taking advantage of online and offline and Maker and public schools and charter schools and private schools and online schools, and you are an active curator, and it's great to see that you're working so hard to help your kids learn as much as they can.
Well, thanks so much. And one of the things I want to highlight there is that I'm doing that in partnership with my children. It's not me creating experiences for them. It's them
Right.
looking at what's important to them, and then my job is to try to offer them as many options as possible.
And we're just going to throw this up as a teaser slide. This is a model that we love, that Marie recently put out in her blog with Getting Smart. So we would suggest that you go and look for it. But it's totally, Marie, I'm not going to do it justice. So I'm just going to say that in this corner here, we're hobbyists. That's where kids are living who do great things outside of school but don't necessarily do great inside. And that's, you know, that's for me personalized learning. We pulled up this slide just in case, and we're about to wrap it up now. So I want to thank everyone, especially our special guests. Tom Vander Art, we really, really are enjoying your book, and I'm not putting it in the past tense because I know those of us who are reading it are going back to it and looking things up and then checking out the resources and then going, oh, but I remember I saw that, and going back, and I just want to thank you for doing this public service because really that's what it's been for us. So any final word from you, Tom?
Thanks, Kate. No, I appreciate the conversation. It's been great. I learned a lot, and that's why we like to develop our books this way. We view them as a learning journey and we're all part of a learning community. So I appreciate the work that each of you do.
Okay, so we're going to sign off, and we're just going to say goodbye to our people really quickly. Next week, we are going to do persuasive games. Our special guest is going to be Christopher Holden. And quickly, just wanted to say, if you aren't already doing this, this is a shout out. The Read for Fun group does Shelfie Wednesdays. So if you're not the kind of person who takes a picture of yourself, a selfie, and sends it out on the internet or tweets it out, instead take a picture like the book you're reading. Maybe Scratch for Programming, and then just put it out with the hashtag Shelfie Wednesday. And of course, we will be around on October 21st for our global game chat. And we just want to thank everybody who's been involved, our trifecta of the Game Sim Network, Mobile Learning Network, and Connected Educator. So thank you, everybody, and especially thank you, Tom, and goodbye.